Howdy folks, Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer. It's time for another gaming vlog. Let's hit it. So, on today's gaming vlog, got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about the new espionage-themed role-playing game that I am working on as part of the new TSR, codenamed Acrid Herald. We're going to talk about the playtest we've done here in the Greyhawk's Tavern. For that, we're going to talk about the first edition AD&D campaign that I'm running, and we're also going to talk about the Pathfinder campaign that I'm in. So, let's start out with the playtest. This is the new playtest manuscript, codenamed Acrid Herald. This is the new espionage-themed role-playing game that we at TSR are working on. This is written by none other than the administrator himself, Merle Rasmussen. If you recognize that name, he is the original creator of, he is the creator of the original Top Secret role-playing game. So, we've been working on this for a while. It's in playtest. We have playtested it here. Can't really talk too much about the playtest and so forth, other than our playtest group that we have is probably got about 90 people in it, and we're all collaborating in different ways, mainly through Facebook. So we have like my test group here, and then there's other test groups everywhere, you know, and everybody's collaborating and everything. And feedback has been very positive. A lot of people are finding bugs and things, and we've got a bug tracker that we're dealing with there. It's easy to put them on there, and then as we do the revisions, those will get fixed. And then we're also getting a lot of suggestions on tweaks and things like that. So we're looking at all that. Like I said, this is version 1, and we are working on version 2 now, so that'll be out soon for the playtesters. And we are hoping to, we will have we hope to be done with the playtest by GaryCon in March. So that is the goal with that. If you want more information, do a Google search on the old Top Secret. If you've never seen a espionage role-playing game or don't know much about it, I have done a video in the past about the original Top Secret Second Edition, SI, I guess it was called. And then there was also a James Bond role-playing game. So I have done a video. I'll put a link below to that video if you want to see the one where I go through all the stuff I have in my collection for those old role-playing games, espionage role-playing games. So anyway, that's happening. And then we'll move on to my first edition campaign. So if you saw my last video, I talked a lot about the mechanics for combat and so forth. Surprise, initiative, combat, and all that. Weapon speed factor, all those things that first edition uses as mechanics for combat. And we decided we're going to do it exactly by the book. We did that on Friday night, and it actually seemed to work pretty well. Brad, who is our resident rules lawyer, who's been painstakingly going over all of the different combat rules and mechanics, he seems to have a really good grasp on it. So when it comes to that, his knowledge is helping us to, if there's anything that we come to that is a gray area, he taps into the old memory bank, and he's able to say, well, actually there's a table for that or whatever. So that's actually working out pretty good. We had a lot of fun on Friday night, and I think I've mentioned that I started them off as 0-level characters. Some of you may not have ever done that. I highly suggest if you want people to really be able to get into the role-playing aspect and the backstory of their characters, if you start them off at 0 level, they're basically townfolk, and they have a regular job that they do or whatnot. And so I had each of them basically tell me what their job was in town, what they had been, one was a horse trainer, another one was a barmaid. Our one female character, she worked as a barmaid at the tavern at her town that she's from, and we had a guy who was trying to learn to be an herbalist, and we had one that was a brewer. So those are the type of things, and then they get swept up into to where this one didn't start out like most campaigns where you start in a tavern. No, my guys were all individually kidnapped, and there was a common denominator, which I've gone through in the previous vlog, as to why they were kidnapped and so forth. And now that we have finished the very first module, they are all first level now. They don't have all their first level skills yet, like spells and so forth. They're going to have to go find someone to train them and so forth. But as far as hit points and that type of stuff, they're first level now. They've all chosen classes and made sure that they met the requirements, the prerequisites for ability scores. They've done that. So they all pretty much know what class alignment they're going to be and so forth. But the first module, we just finished it, was the famous treasure hunt. And if you notice, this one even says on it that it is, let's see if we can do that where you can see what it says there, adventures for, I'm trying to do so the glare is not, and that's probably not going to work out, but you can see it there. Adventure for character levels 0 through 1. So, and of course there's the nice picture there at the end. So this was the module, and what's interesting about this is I found this out this time through because I did a little bit more research. We're doing it in the world of Greyhawk, but this module is the very first module set in the Forgotten Realms. And I did not really know that until I did some research this time. If you notice, nowhere on here does it reference Forgotten Realms. It just says Treasure Hunt, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Official Game Adventure, etc. And the reason was they had not decided to make Forgotten Realms an actual play world, campaign world, when this came out. So there's a little bit of trivia for you. This is the first, even though it doesn't say it, it is set in the Forgotten Realms. So I just changed a few little things to make it work for the world of Greyhawk. And needless to say, if you have any plans on DMing this, I guess you could continue watching. If you plan to, or if you don't know if you're in a group where you could end up playing this could be spoilers. So just, there's your warning. So at the end of this, the bottom line is they're on an island. They have to figure out how to escape the island. And they meet a goddess who had a temple on the island. And she has basically told them, hey, I am going to burn this place to the frickin' ground. And you have until midnight tomorrow to get the hell out of here. I'll give you guys time to get out of here because there's orcs and goblins and stuff on the island. They've trashed her temple and she's pissed. And she's going to burn it to the ground, literally, even though it's an island. And you guys have till midnight to get out of here, tomorrow to get out of here. And so then, of course, they have to try and find a way to get off the island. And our party did. They were successful. So it was a lot of fun. I think everybody had a good time. So now they are headed to the town of Devers, and any of you that are old Greyhawk people, you are very familiar with the town of Devers. And the main quest line that I have started for them will continue at that point. And then, of course, wherever they go, whatever direction I have things that are planned, any direction they want to go in the world, I will not direct them down any type of a certain path or whatever. They are 100% in control of their future. They can go, if they don't want to follow the main storyline, don't care. That's fine. I have it there if they choose to do that. I have stuff set up no matter where they go in the world, so the world is their oyster. So it's going to be a blast. So that's the first edition. That's where we're at in the first edition campaign. Now, Pathfinder. Last night we did Pathfinder, and whenever I do a Friday, Saturday, like we do D&D Friday till midnight, then I do the next day Pathfinder, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And last night we went long. I always wake up on Sunday with what I call a gaming hangover. I only had one beer last night, but I wake up and my head hurts a little bit, and my throat's a little sore. You can probably hear that too in my throat. I call it a gaming hangover. It's just one of those things. Same thing if I play Skyrim for 14 hours one day and then 10 hours the next day, I'll still have a gaming hangover the next day. I mean, I think it's just your brain focusing on so much. So you're trying to digest so much information, and especially if you're doing tabletop, you're talking a lot and everything. So, but to me, it doesn't bother me. It's just one of those little phenomenons that I've noticed over the years. But where I'd left off with the gaming vlog last time with our Pathfinder campaign, we had acquired a ship, and we were heading towards the hometown of one of the player characters. And we made it there, and we had noticed that, and we'd been attacked on the way by these like construct things and these wood mermen type things. And we had noticed that at least the merman type things had stingers in the back of their necks. And one of our party members, the alchemist, of course, had pulled it off, and an ooze came out, but the ooze solidified, so he couldn't really use it in his alchemy. And so then we make it to this town of the player character, and we find out that they've been attacked by these things as well. The whole town has been attacked, and they've been robbed and so forth. So, long story short, we decide that, and not only that, but the player character who's from this town, he has a paladin friend that he finds out has been captured or whatever, and he scries to see him, and he realizes that he's being held captive by these guys or whatever. So we decide, do we want to go after these creatures and everything? And we say, somebody directs and said, well, you might want to talk to Agnes, and she's like this old woman that is like a seer, maybe like a shaman type thing. Excuse me. And so we go see her, and she says, well, if we do this, you guys aren't enough. You're going to need more than this. So, of course, there's some NPCs that join us, and we go in, we find the place, attack it, go down this elevator type shaft thing that's on a big chain. We go down there, and we find out they're building more constructs down there. We kill the guy who's building these constructs. We find a room that has like 175 finished constructs that are idle. They're not active or whatever, which was a little bone chilling, because it's like at any moment do 175 of these things just come to life? That would be kind of bad. And then we make it to the boss at the end. And here's a picture. When I say the boss, here's a picture of kind of what he looked like. So that's similar, but the way it was described to us was that on that, both arms are pinchers, and the one that we fought had one arm that had been basically turned into like a metal arm, like a construct arm, and then his other arm was like tentacles. So he had like 4 tentacles on this arm or whatever, and he had a shell, like shell head type of a deal, but similar to that picture. That was the closest thing I could find. And he was controlling a couple mages in his room, and then there were some other constructs that were in there, and it was a bitch of a fight. So, but we did manage to take him down. He had shot somebody in the neck with one of the, 4 of those tentacle, or no, those spike things, of the stingers type things, and of course we were smart enough to pull them out, so that it was an NPC, I think, was who got shot, doesn't turn into one of these fish things, merman things. But so that's what's been happening. So I've had Acrid, Herald, Playtest, first edition AD&D, and Pathfinder. That's what's been going on in my gaming world. There's my gaming vlog. Haven't had hardly any time for any, computer games. Maybe a little Skyrim or whatever, but not much. So that's it for me, guys. I'd love to hear what you guys down below, what you guys are playing, if you're having any adventures, tabletop or whatever. So that's it, guys. Stay tuned for the next one. Maybe next week we'll have another one. Talk to you later. Bye. Catch you on the... Oh, sorry. Almost missed the tagline. Catch you on the flip side.